excited to get back to school. Unfortunately, one of the intercoms was a little faulty, so one of our students is a little muffled and a little grainy. Bear with us while our intercoms are under repair.
Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society.
Oh, joy!
Let's rock.
It makes me wanna fart!
Dear Journal, it's me, Doug.
You have it!
Dig it.
Baby's gotta do what a baby's gotta do.
That was a hoot!
On your mark. Get set.
Oh, here it goes!
Welcome, everybody, to Splat Attack, where we're taking it back to the slime-filled past. I am your co-host, Brett.
I am your other co-host, Alex, and Brett, school has started back up, but I think we probably should take a trip to high school. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm ready to go back down memory lane and see what all the fellow freshmen are doing.
Well, I think we might have some exchange students with us today.
Oh, really? Who's joining us today?
Well, in my philosophy, ladies first.
Who you calling a lady?
Who do we have with us?
Oh, you want me to talk now?
Yeah.
Do you want
How
to
are you?
introduce yourself, or I can introduce each of you?
I could introduce myself. Hi there,
Okay.
everyone. I'm Robyn Ross.
And also with us is...
Hello, everybody. This is Christopher Lobban.
What is up, guys?
Thank you so much for joining us today at school to reminisce.
So we've got...
No.
for those who
I thought
tuning-
that was long gone.
Well, for those who are tuning in and not sure who these characters are, they are actually none other than Brooke Morgan from the 90s Nickelodeon TV show 15 and Kevin St. James from Welcome Freshmen, both of which aired very early in Nickelodeon's heyday. To be specific, 15 aired February 2nd, 1991, and Welcome Freshmen aired February 16th, 1991. So we're kind of close, although I believe 15 aired like a year before in Canada. Is that right, Robyn?
Yeah, because Canadians are always first with everything.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that when I was doing research for my Are You Afraid of the Dark book last year, and I'm like, wait a minute, why does the pilot say 90 instead of 91?
Yeah,
but
I think it's because they test everything out in Canada, and if somehow it passes this test, they're like, yeah, it's good enough for the US.
What a strange standard, but it is what it is.
If it rocks in Canada, it's good everywhere, I guess.
So we've got students from Hawthorne and Hillside today.
That's got a nice ring to it. I wonder if those schools are near each other in the Nickelodeon universe.
When I was a kid, I used to like to think that all of these fictional places kind of existed like in a John Hughes kind of way. Like they were sort of all in the same neighborhood, in the same town. You know what I mean? If Kevin went far enough down the block, he might see Brooke up there. Like for some reason, I would totally ignore the fact that everybody at Hillside was Canadian. So that meant that they were several thousand miles away from anybody, anything that I do.
Only first season. And then we started, cross-bordering at that point.
Students from both schools went to the Avalon after school.
That's right. Yeah. But you knew the Canadians from the Americans when the Canadians said about. We had to meet about 4:00.
To my understanding, a lot of our listeners are Gackoids and Slimesters. They're probably not as familiar with 15 and Welcome Freshmen because it was so early, and we have a lot of Nick kids who were probably mid to late 90s. So, and Nickelodeon never really re-aired these shows, which is a travesty in my opinion.
Heartbreaking.
So I was wanting to see if the two of you, we'll start with Robyn, could describe what 15 was about and what the tone of the show was like.
Okay, what 15 was about? Well, basically, I think it was pretty pioneering in the sense that it dealt with issues that a lot of other TV shows wouldn't deal with. Drugs, alcohol, divorce, and it was all from a teen's perspective because there was never one adult scene on the entire show. So it was not being told how to deal with it or what the reality of it was our reality, which was really cool because a lot of times it's a different perspective or an adult reality. So that was a really kind of cool thing. It was done in a 3-camera setup fashion. So it's like a sitcom. We filmed it on a studio stage and we had 3 cameras that were set up. It's like a soap opera actually. And basically 15 it was like a teen soap. So it was filmed with three cameras and different angles that would catch us doing the scene. We'd normally do the scene once unless maybe a boom or something fell into the scene. But other than that, it was pretty much a one-hit wonder because we would do rehearsals ahead of time and then film the whole show on one day.
That just reminded me of when we would actually one hit wonder. It wasn't very often. Where we would like nail something down in one take and that was it. You guys do that frequently? Were you guys good at that?
Oh, literally, they wouldn't let us do it again unless there was a technical issue. So yeah,
Oh,
it was
wow.
every scene was just filmed once.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
Or if someone screwed up their line, but that was looked down upon. So yeah, it was pretty hardcore. And by the time we did a table read, we had to know our parts from all 13 episodes of that season. We would go around the table for the entire day doing the whole 13 episodes, and we had to know all of our lines.
Are you serious?
Dead serious. And there's no way I could do that now. No way.
That's
Oh my goodness.
God, that sounds draconian. Yeah, our rehearsal and table read, but like there were times we couldn't get the lines straight at the table read. We're looking at the friggin' scripts. I guess they were so much more lax with us than they were with you guys.
All right, well, Chris, tell us about Welcome Freshmen, what that show was about, and what was the tone of that show like?
Welcome Freshmen was about a group of freshmen in high school. When people would ask me about it back then, one of my favorite responses was just to say, it's like Saved by the Bell, but funnier.
I'll
Good
attest to
one.
that.
But you know, it was about this very close-knit group of friends and their experiences specifically as freshmen in high school. We never touched anything near the sort of weightier material that you would see on 15. Like 15 was a heavy show, and we were definitely more on presenting the lighter side of awkward high school life thing. There was some sort of heavy stuff, but not even really. Like it's still pretty liberal usage of the word heavy. We were pretty much a good time show.
For those who had never seen either show, both have described it pretty well. 15 was very much an over-dramatic soap opera for teenagers, and Welcome Freshmen was quite the opposite. It was still overacted and hammy and silly, but the point of it was silly. It was meant to poke fun at life in high school, especially from the perspective of a freshman. It's usually, at least the first 2 seasons, were very sketch based. It wasn't one story that would go all the way through. It would be pick a topic, and then they would have different skits that would center on that theme. But season 3, they went more with a sitcom format.
Yes, they did. The kids from the show and I were all pretty much in touch. We don't hear from Jocelyn very often. We all went off after the show and got normal lives. And Jocelyn's actually, I guess, attempting to save the world. Like the last I heard, she was like in Uzbekistan rescuing the children or puppies or something like that. Like she's very, very serious. And we're all like kind of not. We keep in touch. We stumbled upon a thread a few years ago called Jump the Shark. And this is like a thread where they talk about old shows around the same area as ours, and a little bit older, some into the later 80s and such. And when those shows got to be bad, which is when they called it Jumping the Shark. And for us, we were listed on there, and there was a very hot debate about whether or not we jumped the shark between season 2 and 3. Because a lot of people who were really enamored of that sort of sketch show format where you had your Murphy-mentaries, you had Mr. History, then you had the mall scenes, and you had all of these different segments that revolved around a central theme. And when we switched to the standard sitcom format in the 3rd season, it really kind of became more of a Saved by the Bell clone. I think that sketch format is kind of what set us apart from some of the other teen ensemble shows that we're on. But some people say that they like the sitcom version better, that the sitcom format led to better, like deeper story development. And, maybe that's true too. I preferred the original format to the sketch show.
There's a certain type of energy that I noticed for the earlier season. It was very quick paced. You can still keep up with everything. And for some reason, I kept thinking about Clarissa Explains It All when I was revisiting the earlier episodes, just because of the kind of type of curiosity and wonder that was imbued in the writing and how the kids interacted with each other, and even other characters like Mr. Lippman. So it's fun to kind of see the show from the kids' perspective rather than just kind of the standard audience that's removed watching a story play out. So I can understand why people would be more favorable towards the earlier seasons, but having watched a decent chunk of both of them, I think they each have their own pros and cons, even with their different cast members interchanging between the changing of the guard.
So keeping with the theme that Chris had set up with the jumping the shark, Robyn, do you feel that there was ever a point with 15 where they did the same thing?
Yes, when I left the show.
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
Who,
would you like to elaborate on that?
with the loss
I'm
of
just
Brooke.
joking.
I'm not.
I'm
not.
That
No
was
more
so.
so.
That was so Brooke. I had to say it.
But
I
Brooke
mean,
was such a part of the show. That's
Yeah,
part of
she was like the core.
when
Yeah.
she was no longer on the show, it was really missing something. I was actually going to say that, and it wasn't because you're our guest. No, I genuinely feel that way. When Brooke was no longer on the show, it was sorely missing that antagonistic
Yeah,
personality.
it kind of sucked after that. She was like the core of conflict. She was just this badass, wicked fount of hateration. That just went around.
The person people loved to hate. But no, to be honest with you, we didn't get Nickelodeon in Canada, so I actually didn't watch. Once I wasn't on the show anymore, I never saw what it was like after that. So I have no idea, except for
wow.
now that it's on Amazon Prime. It's reliving on Amazon
Oh,
Prime.
wow.
But at least it found second wind through there, because I know both Welcome Freshmen and 15 didn't really have any DVD releases prior. I know I looked for them, and
There was bootleg black market releases. Then I know that you
Were
could
there
get it
really?
through the 15 website for the
Mhm.
first season. You could get it through the website, but then then it's now reliving on Amazon Prime.
That's awesome.
Not that any of us have seen 1 cent, but just saying.
I mean, I could pay you directly for watching the first season.
Yeah, that's true. We might
Okay,
have to
so-
pay people to watch it.
That's true.
And I know that there are rights
It's gotta go
issues with 15 and being on Paramount
Mm.
Plus, but Welcome Freshmen should absolutely be on Paramount Plus with all the different
Yeah.
Nickelodeon properties.
Yeah,
they've
you would
got.
think.
But
I
anyway,
did know that they aired it on Splat a couple of years back in the
Yeah.
mid 2010. So at least some people had an introduction to it if they missed it the first time around. Because I
didn't
know
even
for
know
a
they
fact,
aired it on Splat. Really?
Yeah, it was
early,
around like
early
20
on Splat.
2013,
Wow.
2014. They did like 2 runs of reruns through all the episodes, and then it disappeared. So maybe they just had a limited contract for usage rights or
Yeah.
something.
We're totally like the cast-off kids of Nickelodeon, like because they never
Mhm.
call us to tell us anything. They never call. They never
Aw.
write. Like nobody cares.
Aw.
Yeah.
We care. I know.
I know, and we
Show.
appreciate it deeply. We appreciate it so deeply.
Trust us, your fans are out there. They may be few and far in between, but they're out there and eager to connect with you and the rest of the cast, wherever you guys are.
I think
I
as
think
far
that's
as
so
like
cool.
90s Nickelodeon fans go, there are so many of them and there are so many venues for people to check things out that building into one pool of community and nostalgia is kind of a hard thing to accomplish. But there are a lot of fans of both 15 and Welcome Freshmen. It's just trying to find a way to reel them all in one place.
The difference is now I used to get bags and bags of hate mail.
Really?
Back in the-
Brooke Mail?
Yeah, Brooke hate mail. And now it's nice because people who were super, where, they grew up with the show, they love the show, they maybe are now
Mhm.
showing their kids the show. They've reached out on Instagram and it's nothing but love, which is just
Yeah.
so nice.
Well,
It's
Yeah,
nice
I
to
think
see
they
that
finally
again.
realized that I'm not a real person. I'm not a mean witch in real life. There's that
Right.
divide.
That's really telling, though. That's telling of the strength of your performance.
I think now what we can at least address from the two of you describing some of the main characters of the show and what their personalities or story arcs were.
So even though it was a pioneering show in terms of the topics we discussed, we were still pretty two-dimensional characters. So the archetype of every type of person. So I was the school witch, the popular girl, the girl that made everyone's life miserable. I was always bullying in a rich, privileged kind of way. I guess to make, I mean, if we were going to go deeper, I'd say she had deep problems where she wasn't, validated in her own life. And it was supposed to be soap opera-esque. I had said in the interview before, the one we did that was live, I had said a couple seasons later, after taking some really good acting classes and intense studies, I came back where I was giving her layers and nuance to this character. And that was shut down so quickly. It wasn't even funny. They wanted me just to go back to that smirk at the end of the scene where I look off into the distance with that evil look on my face with that smirk. So, but anyways, I was the mean girl. Then Todd Talbot played Matt and he was the jock. His secondary storyline was that he had a drinking problem. And he was dating the sweet girl who was Ashley, the very pretty, nice, sweet girl next door. Dylan was the rebel without a cause. And that was played by Chris Martin. I should say that Laura Harris played Ashley. Courtney was the hippie girl, played by Sarah Douglas. and then there was the secondary characters, like my best friend first season was played by Anuka Okuma. She played Kelly. Arsaman came in and she became friends with Courtney, and Arsaman is played by Arsaman Johannes. The rebel Dylan got a kind of girl counterpart rebel whose name was Roxanne, played by Roxanne. Then, of course, there was Ryan Reynolds, who was Billy, who was the younger brother, because there was a lot of the younger brothers and sisters to some of the main characters. Ryan Reynolds played Courtney's younger brother, Billy.
Over on Welcome Freshmen, tell us about some of the characters.
I played Kevin St. James, which is odd in that I think the first season, Kevin's last name was actually Kevin Kelly. In the first season, I think it's episode 6, Language maybe, where one of the Mr. Histories, they go back in time to like the 1920s Prohibition era, and they're selling bootleg gum. My character was Machine Gum Kelly. And then later on, like the third season, they wrote in Aaron Kelly and Grant Kelly, and we were actually shooting their first scene. I came in, I was like, hey, that's my last name. We should probably change one of their last names. And they were like, we're changing yours because nobody ever says your last name. And I was kind of hurt. I was like, we're 2 years in and you're going to just throw my name out? Yeah, I called the name of one of my favorite hotels. Yeah, how about St. James? And they were like, yes, we'll use that.
That is
So
a
I
great
claimed-
name, though.
It was my little contribution. So that was Kevin. He was kind of the cool kid, sort of the Zach Morrissey. He was always trying to find the shorter, slicker way through things. Pretty lazy in all ways, except for when he was trying to cut a corner. And that was about it. Then there was, in the first season, there was Tara, who was kind of the environmental one. There was Merv, who was the actual nerd. Tara was played by Jill Setter, and Merv was Dave Roden. Jocelyn played Alex with the cool girl. She stayed through us through the whole show. She was sort of the equivalent to Brooke's character, only not quite as malicious. Arian Ash played Aaron Kelly, and her older brother was played by Brock Bradley. He played Grant Kelly, was Alex's boyfriend. And he was very much the jock, Abercrombie and Fitch sort of guy. Like Robyn says, these were fantastically one-dimensional characters. 15 had stories where stuff happened, and like even when we went to sitcom style, like there wasn't very much that happened in terms of the story arc, or very much opportunity for a character to even develop itself. We were not story driven at all. It was pretty much about like the visual laughs and like the one-liners, the singers, which is cool because we had 15 to cover the other end, and you want to see something that made you feel all Morrissey or whatever it is.
Yeah, I definitely noticed when revisiting some of the episodes that a lot of them had a loose plot in them. The one that comes to mind is called The Stuff, where Walter invents some sort of like chemical accident in science class. And, a lot of the times he was just making jokes like, oh, I did that by accident, or, something that would elicit a laugh. And then you got the typical Mr. Littman getting angry at him for being silly.
Breaking something or ruining something.
They did have storylines there. They just didn't seem to go too far beyond their typical character archetypes, which I found interesting because I thought they would have wanted to go a little bit deeper with the later season.
I think the story arcs were mostly just to hit the one punchline and then move on.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I think they wanted to retain that aspect from the sketch comedy where it was more rapid fire.
I have a question. Christopher, what would you say would be the age demographic that mostly tuned into your show if you're supposed to play ninth graders?
The majority of our fans at the time I have found were 8 to 9 years old up to like 14, maybe. That always seemed kind of weird to me when we would do appearances or when I would go somewhere and some people would flock or whatever, was just the range of kids. Because it was one of those things as a child, I never really thought of things like demographics, like who's watching the show. It never, for the longest time, it never occurred to me that anybody was watching the show at all. You know what I mean? I was living in Florida, shooting it. We were such an insular kind of environment where Disney Studios and Universal Studios were the two biggest things. And everybody knew everybody who worked there. So everybody in the town knew everybody who worked there. There were very few opportunities, at least during production, for me to see who was watching. I don't know if it was the same for you guys in Canada. I imagine you guys were pretty big off the rip in Canada. I think it took us a little bit of steam. No? Really?
Since you can't see, Robyn was over here shaking her head. Just
nope.
No, it actually didn't blow up big until it became big in the States. And then Canada's like, oh, it's cool. Okay.
That exact reaction.
Okay.
Our demographic as well was very much, I guess some parents would let their kids at 5 watch if they had older siblings. But I mean, I'd say 5 to like 13, because I'd say the kids at 13 at that point were watching 90210, because everybody always wants to watch the ones that are much older, which kind of would explain maybe why the story arcs weren't there, or why the nuance wasn't there. Because if you're playing to a crowd that's kind of tween and maybe a little younger, you don't really need that at that point. It's still awesome for them to watch. I mean, and then the other demographic we had were the stoned college kids. We had a huge stoned college kid demographic.
I was not expecting that.
I got a lot of letters from really stoned college kids. They loved it. I don't know. They do the marathons. I have no idea.
Wow. It actually reminds me of Ren and Stimpy's demographic too, because when they got their start, it didn't necessarily hit with all the younger kids. Like some of them were into the gross stuff that they did, but a lot of people from college really tuned into it because it was just so far different than like the typical 80s cartoon that was based off of a toy to sell toys that was like cut and clean, squeaky clean.
So in preparation for the interview with the two of you guys on our podcast, we had a couple segments that we really wanted to do, but we also had a set list of questions. And I was wondering if we would even get to all those questions, because just by how we all got along so well at our last one, we just kept riffing and giving all these fun tidbits of information. Like, I don't know if we would need to go through all these questions. And I don't think we would have to, but there were a couple, because Brett had come up with these, and there were a couple really, really good ones that I know that we didn't ask when I had spoken with you. So Brett, I'm going to hand it over to you for a moment, let you look through those and see what couple, because Brett and I, our brains work very differently. I can just, I come up with stuff on the spot, and Brett is very, very organized. So I know he's got some written down.
I'm really organized right now.
Alex is the chaos, I'm the control. So we balance each other quite nicely as a result. We'll just run a few questions by you to see if,
I wish that the audience could see you guys visually as well, with Alex wearing his AC/DC rock shirt and his long hair, and then Brett in a really nice, shirt, clean cut with his glasses. Yeah.
Like Alex is totally like the Maverick cop from the 80s buddy movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you go by his desk, like in the office, and there's like this crap all over the desk, and like somebody tries to move a picture, and he's like, no, that's my system. You know what I mean? Because he knows where everything is. Like, I'm looking at the picture, there's chaos, there's like cool posters, all the AC/DC shirt. You're absolutely right. And then we look behind Brett, like it's a very calm and serene setting.
You should see
he's got
this.
a sweater on, he's got his glasses. And like,
I got a whole roll of 90s Nickelodeon stuff on my wall over there. So I'm very organized when it comes to
framed
display.
and neatly put.
I was just about to say that. It's all like very, very neatly put. Like, that's awesome. You guys are like the odd couple.
All right, Brett, take it over with some questions, bub.
Sure. What inspired each of you to audition for your respective roles on the show?
To be honest with you, I would have auditioned for absolutely anything at that point in time. A B horror movie, a terribly written Hallmark, if they had those back then, anything. I would have just auditioned for anything. So here it was, this like teen soap opera thing. I was like, yeah, sure. What's this about? And then, as I explained before, it was this massive, basically cattle call of anybody. They advertised it on the news stations. They advertised it in the newspapers. We had those things back then. And,
I remember those.
and I went, and my agents could submit people and send them, but for some reason mine didn't think I'd be right for some reason. So I was like, well,
really,
screw you all. So I'm going to go. And then they tried to take commission. I'm like, bye-bye. I was very happy when I did end up getting this show, because I think it's such a great thing when you are young to be in a cast of all other young people and just to bond the way you did and connect. And a lot of kids that are on shows who are like secondary or tertiary characters, kind of they're the one or two only kids on the show. So it's not the same experience as being on an all kids. It was just such a fun time.
Chris, how about you?
It's funny. I just moved down to Florida from New York, and we'd moved down specifically for the studios because they just opened up in New York, and I was doing commercials and print work mainly up there. And we got the word the studios were opening up. It was like, really want a TV show. That would be awesome. And they're making a bunch of TV shows down there. So let's go. We went down there, and it took a minute before the audition popped up. Invariably it did. I was really fortunate to have gotten the call. I absolutely know that. But and then on the other side, I think to myself, it was only a matter of time. There were so many shows, and they were calling everybody. Like Robyn said, they were putting the ads out. I mean, I had an agent at the time, but it didn't matter because it was an open call. So everybody was getting the calls, and everybody was showing up. And there were quite a few kids that auditioned, and it was a long process. It took a few weeks or whatnot. Yeah, for me, just moving to Florida in of itself, even at the age I was at the time, I'd been working in the business for a while. So the move to Florida was more of a business decision, I suppose, than I wanted a show. I wanted the show badly, and I knew that there was no way I could get one in New York. There's no way I could get one. And it was really super fortunate that Universal opened and Disney had opened studios right there at the time. And I had family down in Florida, so it was an easy transition to make.
You went on your own or with your family?
Oh no, I went with my family, definitely. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I was fortunate. I went, my mom and I were the last to leave the city. So my brother was already in Florida, but he was in Tampa in college.
Oh, nice.
It was a great process. I was intimidated because it was a television show, and the biggest thing I'd ever done up to that point. And I really had an idea of what was going to be required was pretty far away from what was actually required. Like in terms of story arc and character development, like Brooke was saying, like I had this idea that this is definitely going to be my ticket to the Emmys. It's definitely not. It's definitely not going to be your ticket to
the Joey Awards, pretty much. Those are the kid awards.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you never know where life takes you, but sometimes it works out in strange ways.
Yeah, it did. I have no regrets at all. It was definitely one of the golden points of my life, just one of the highlights when I look back, especially professionally, all the things that I've done. Like I learned more about the business and about myself. And like I said, you get to working with these people and, eventually you see them more than you see your family, and then your social life, if you have a social life, generally tends to stray towards the industry and the people that you're, that's what you do. Like if you work at a bar, like you go out to other bars with your bar friends.
Right. Yeah. People are already into what you're doing.
Yeah. People that are into what you're doing. So you can become fairly, if not removed, you can become pretty insulated from the rest of real life versus, the whole movie magic thing. Yeah. But it was such a great experience to come out like this many years later, and to be talking now with you guys and also with Robyn is just like an incredible thing. It blows my mind. Every time I talk to you guys, it blows my mind that people are still interested and that there's still interest there. And even though I know it is, the interwebs have found a way to bring them all together in a few places, but it really blows my mind. So I feel really fortunate to have been a part of that.
Certain bonds just last even 30 years.
Yeah, hard to believe time flies like that.
Really do.
Yeah, I'm very humbled.
For some of us, apparently.
Yeah.
Some of us don't look as though we've aged all that much.
Yeah, I know. We should be on a game show. Guess my age.
But to the youngins who are laughing, going, why do old people always talk about how old they are? It's just because you blink. And the next thing you know, you'll be our age. So watch out.
Yeah. They don't realize how fast time accelerates the older you get, and it only ramps up.
I wonder if that's because like when you're young, the clock is ticking up, and when you like after you get to a certain point, then it just starts like a countdown. Is that?
Yeah. I knew once I hit 30, I was running out of time, so I'm just constantly like fighting the clock to get new art out.
That's terrible. That breaks my heart, Brett. Like at 30, you knew you were running out of time.
Brett, my 40s were one of my favorite decades.
Do you have a favorite episode?
Go ahead.
No, you go, because I need time to think.
Okay.
I don't even know if I can remember.
Actually, my favorite episode might be Language. It might be the one that I was telling you about, Language. I got to dress up like a 1920s gangster, and I really liked that wardrobe.
That was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool, right? I got like a zoot suit, like I had a nice little hat. And I tried my best to steal those clothes, and it did not work.
Mine, the thing is, it's really hard to remember that long ago. And it's not just because it's how long ago it was. It's mostly because when all this stuff is, you're just a child. I was 18 at the time. So I was just coming out of high school and my whole life was opening up ahead of me. And I was like in a different country, different city. And the whole world was buzzing and spinning around me. So there was so much going on. I was just kind of on this crazy ride and just went with it. But I loved the episodes where I got to make fun of myself and like make Brooke look like an idiot. I had so much fun from the outside in making Brooke look like an idiot. So she had one where she had to run for school president and she gave this speech, which was just ridiculous. And there was one where we had a talent show and she thought she was amazing. And I had a tap dance, but she was terrible. So I loved the episodes where people could laugh at me, not with me. Those were fun. And then I also loved the episode that I tried to steal Dylan the Rebel. Yes. And I wore that, what I thought was a really sexy dress at the time.
It was.
Thank you. And I got to keep it and I loved it for years and I wore it for years. But just because up until that point, I always played really dorky characters. So it was really nice for once to just play somebody and be like, oh my gosh, I'm the girl that's stealing the guy. Like, wow.
Right.
So that was fun.
Great answers. Alex, do you have a favorite episode that stands out for either show for you?
For either show, the episode, I can't think of the name of it. I think it was Seniors or something like that for Welcome Freshmen, an episode where they were just constantly jealous of the seniors and they stole Mr. Lippman's car. Well, they didn't steal it. They were washing it.
That Jeep thing and they have the fast motion going on.
Yes. That scene in particular has stuck with me more so than anything. And I can't think of the episode title, but I believe it was season 3 of 15, and it was at the episode where Matt was actually offering Dylan to stay at his parents' house, because at the beginning of the series the two of them were just at each other and Matt was constantly, I don't have a drinking problem, every single episode.
That's true. He did say that a lot.
But season 3, he had come a long way and was actually giving an olive branch to Dylan. And that particular, I think he had the biggest development in terms of character. And I really, really liked where that character was going at that point. And that was the very moment that I was like, this episode is my favorite.
Oh, cool. Connecting with the male characters on it and seeing maybe yourself or people you knew through that at that time. That's really cool. That was probably the deepest it got.
And we'll take
I forgot to say I liked when I got a pie in the face. That was fun. We had it again, one take wonder, so I only got it in my face once, but Roxanne was really good at shoving it in my face.
You guys must have been such professionals compared to where we were. Like, you had to do it in one take. There were times where we screwed takes up on purpose. Like, just, you know what I'm saying? Like, just screwing around. You know, that we're doing like a pickup shot where we're doing like an over the shoulder shot. Camera's not going to see me, so I'm sitting there like making faces at Brock or something like that, you know, just trying to make each other laugh, and then they'd screw the whole thing up. We'd have to do it over again, and they were like really accommodating and cool with that. And poor Robyn,
episode a day.
That sounds like the Oliver Twist of production.
It makes me wonder how different your characters would be if they simply switched shows. Like if Kevin was on 15 or Brooke was on Welcome Freshmen, how the dynamic would change with the rest of the cast.
We actually talked about that. We were hoping they were going to do that. We were trying to kind of pitch it, but
ooh, like a crossover.
See if we can get that worked out. That would be some kind of crossover. Like that would be sick.
CW superhero shows.
I feel like the kids at Hillside would have hated Kevin. I think they would have hated Kevin. I'm pretty sure. Like
there could have been some tension there, but I think you would probably get along with Dylan, the rebel.
Oh yeah, maybe me and Dylan could
they could brood together.
My favorite episode would probably be, I believe it's called Technology, from season 1 of Welcome Freshmen. I remember that one really gripping my attention first watching it. And then there was one where like everyone got purple lips due to frozen yogurt that I remember from my early childhood.
Yeah, I do. I remember
that one really stood out to me. Yeah. I don't know the name of it, but that was like my earliest memory of Welcome Freshmen.
Lipdromata, maybe. Lipdromata.
Yeah. And then for 15, I would probably say either the dislocated Swede or the party from season 1, because I'm kind of a sucker for earlier episodes of any series. But I just really like the drama building there at the party and seeing them out of the school setting for a change.
Yes.
And also for the dislocated Swede, just kind of getting introduced to outside characters like Olaf, who started to befriend Billy and like learn to play chess with him. And that's where we kind of saw the starting point for a lot of these overarching issues developing under the surface for other characters, like Matt with his alcoholism, and then Brooke kind of plotting to get in the way of Courtney by putting on the moves of Dylan. So it's fun to see kind of things gain momentum in that way for the show.
Think how different it was back then when the immigrant coming to school was a Swedish person. Like, that's really weird.
That was a big deal. You have a Swede.
Got to be careful with those Swedes, you know.
You gotta be careful with those Swedes. They will come in and bring all kinds of complex furniture. You have no idea.
Right? You don't even know how to fold it or sit on it or what.
Yeah, what do you do? How do you even read the direction? How do you have
and their names. Their names.
Yeah.
They'll never recover.
Viewers at home, we do not bash any foreigners. We're just having a goof.
Now, if the Swedes were wearing suede, that would be really sweet.
That would be really sweet.
My roommate from New York for years, and one of my closest friends, John Kim, he's Korean, and he actually is one of the top designers in Sweden, lives in Sweden, and works for IKEA. So
go figure.
he went the other way.
It's like a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon thing. He's related to the show.
And I said, what do the names of the furniture mean? And he's like, nothing. They're just made up names. They totally got us all tricked.
They're not even real Swedish words.
Yeah.
That's great.
For Robyn, what was your favorite part about doing the show at Nickelodeon Studios versus Vancouver and Ontario?
Well, it was Universal Studios. So we got to go out every day and we had free reign of the studios. So we got to go to the theme parks whenever we want. We could walk around. We got to know all the staff that worked there, like the people that sang and danced and did shows, and the staff that worked at the food places. And I don't know, we felt like a part of a bigger, like it was like we were one cell in a body of many cells. And that was working at Universal Studios. It was also amazing exercising my green card status. My father's American, and I was planning to, right before I got 15 anyways, I was planning to move to New York. Just kind of sped the process up a little bit. You know, Vancouver was great, but it didn't feel as legit as it did when it was at Universal Studios in Florida. And then Ontario was even smaller when we were in Ottawa. It's the capital of Canada, but it's very political. Like it's just, you know, a lot of guys in tweed suits. So it was really boring and slow there. It was cool that we were in the original House of Slime because it was where they filmed You Can't Do That on Television. Yeah.
Legendary.
And, so we got to film there, but the coolest thing about filming there was the fact that picture was on the wall in the hall. But that's about it. I mean, other than that, it was definitely the coolest out of the three to be in Florida. Plus the weather.
Can't beat the year-round sunshine, huh?
Plus meeting Christopher.
We're going to move on to one of our final sections of the interview. Without further ado, let's think fast to make the grade. All right, so question 1 for Welcome Freshmen. Mr. Littman often fantasizes about being what profession during school? And there's a bonus point if you can name his office attendant companion who does the badunch on the drums.
Well, everybody knows Mr. Littman's lifelong dream was to be a comedian. And poor Miss Petruka had to back him up on the drums.
That is correct.
Oh, yeah.
Good job. Good job.
I loved Miss Petruka. She was one of my favorite characters. I loved her.
Which basketball playing student cast member dates Ashley, and what problem does he often wrestle with outside of school?
Oh, well, that was Matt. And Matt has a drinking problem.
Correct.
And if we didn't address it earlier in this episode, he will be happy to address it 15 more times within 20 minutes of every episode.
Just in case you didn't forget.
Yes.
That's why it was really called 15.
Brilliant. So the score is tied 2-2 because those were 2-part questions, 1 point each. So question 2 for Welcome Freshmen. In the season 3 episode, Rhymes with Liar, which singing sensation appears to perform on stage, and what song do they sing?
Oh, that would be Shanice, and I Love Your Smile.
That is correct. And that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was awesome. A very cool, like for her. It was a very big deal for her to come by. And she was so sweet and such like a cool person to shoot with. It was great. She was great. I just want to throw
That's
that out
awesome.
there.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I loved it. I love that song.
But yeah, I actually thought of that episode when you mentioned your character's last name changed because of the hotel, because you were actually a bellhop in that episode
Yes.
who was carrying her heavy bags into her room and had to get Aaron's demo tape to her.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly what it was. And actually, Arian's a great singer herself. So, and at the time, it was such a big deal for her to be able to meet. She was already a fan of hers anyway. So she spazzed.
Was that a legit demo tape that she sent to her on the show?
Oh no, that was like my stuff. That was that thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, on to 15. What is the name of the foreign exchange student in the episode The Dislocated Swede? And what exactly does he bond with Billy over?
Thank goodness you just answered this when we talked about it. But I did know it was Olaf. I would have never known it was chess, but I do know now because I was listening and paying attention.
We like to drop hints for you.
Yeah.
But that is correct. So far, it's tied up 2-2 or 4-4 since they're each two parts. So question 3 for Welcome Freshmen. In 1992, there was a Nick Arcade special featuring 4 members from the cast of Welcome Freshmen. Which ones were contestants? And you can give me either their character names from the show or their real names.
Okay, so I'm gonna say Kevin, Alex, Walter, Aaron, and Manny. Is
I
that
hate
wrong?
to break it to you.
Are they all wrong?
Here's what I got. There was Mr. Lipman,
Yep.
who was Mike Speller. There was
Right.
Walter,
Yep.
Rick Galloway.
Okay.
Tara, who was Jill Setter-Rusk, and Billy, Nick Barnes.
Nick
Maybe there was
Barnes.
two.
Billy
There was
Cushman.
2 of them.
No. I'm sure you have it absolutely right. I think
Yep.
I'm confusing your question with a game show that Jocelyn and I did at a certain point. I can't even remember the name of the game show.
Oh, Get the Picture. You were on Get the Picture.
Yeah, we played Get the Picture, exactly. So I
Yeah.
think that's what I was remembering when you answered your question. Oh, crap,
Right.
that sucks.
Well, you
Oh,
actually got
okay.
that question correct. So if you want, I can still give you points.
Oh, you guys are the nicest.
I know. We'd be fired after episode 1 on Think Fast to Make the Grade if it were an actual game show.
Another easy one. What is the name of the diner that the kids hang out at outside of school?
The Avalon.
Ding,
That
ding,
was
ding,
my
ding,
favorite set.
You got it. Back to Welcome Freshmen, number 4. In the season 3 premiere episode, Things Change, the cast gets shaken up, resulting in 2 departing freshmen and 3 new arrivals, a sophomore and 2 freshmen. Which 2 freshman students leave and why? And which 2 freshmen replace them? And bonus if you can mention the sophomore that came in.
Okay, so the 2 freshmen that left were Merv and Tara. Tara moved to a biodome, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And Merv, oh gosh, I can't remember what happened to Merv. I can't remember what Merv did.
He skipped ahead to college.
Oh, he skipped ahead to college. That's right. Of course he did. Why couldn't I just think of that? The 2 freshmen that came in were Manny and Aaron Kelly. And
That is correct.
the sophomore, I think, was no, Grant was a senior. Weren't we all sophomores at that point?
No, you're right. It was Grant.
Okay, it was Grant. Okay.
You got it.
15. Question 4. Why does Brooke leave after season 3 on the show? And does her bestie Kelly go with her?
Well, Kelly does not go with her because Kelly left after first season. So she wasn't even my bestie anymore. That was a trick question.
Ooh.
Because I think a character named Claire was my best friend after that. I can't remember who my best friend was. Okay. And then I
So
left
Brooke.
this actually, but you're asking me why I left, but they made that up for the season I wasn't on. But I think I've heard through the grapevine that I was shipped off to boarding school somewhere. But that would have been said in season 4, right? Because I didn't know what they said about me.
At the end of season 3, Brooke was moving to Paris.
They already knew I was fired. Well, Paris, excellent. I'm so glad she
Yeah.
got there.
Not a bad place
Now
to
she
go.
can have all the fashion she wants. And
That fits her.
Exactly.
It totally fits.
No, I think they changed the story after after season 4 had started. But yeah, at the end of season 3, Brooke was leaving for Paris.
This one might be a trick question too, but it should be easy when you think of it. Out of all the student cast members of Welcome Freshmen, which is the only one who remains a freshman across all 3 seasons?
Oh, that'd be Walter.
That is correct.
Okay.
Do
Yeah,
you happen to know why?
Yeah, because he was held back.
That is why.
Walter was held back. He did not hit the books. Although it's weird, we had like a whole episode about him hitting the books, and then evidently it wasn't enough.
I think they mentioned in one episode that the teachers couldn't stand one more year of him, so they just bumped him up, to get rid of him.
Yeah, let's hear it for the American education system.
Yeah.
So 15, question 5. Which seasons of 15 was filmed at Nickelodeon Studios?
Oh, that would be my 3rd season and then their 4th and 5th season.
Oh, wow.
That is correct.
Guys are tied up pretty much.
Okay.
All right.
Final question for both shows. Which show had more episodes produced? Was it 15 or Welcome Freshmen?
Oh, wow. I'm going to say 15.
I was going to say 15 too, because I know we were 13 episodes for 5 seasons.
Yeah, I think we were only 4.
And you had 13 episodes each season as well?
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yay!
Okay.
We
All
both
right.
won. It's a tie.
Yeah.
It's my favorite kind.
Yes.
15 for the specifics. 15 had 65 episodes and Welcome Freshmen had 59. So not too far off.
I'm so glad that we did this in trivia. Like I thought my fear was going to be it was like a steel cage match or something. I can't handle.
Yeah, that'd be too brutal for our 3rd episode. We got to save that for like the 100th episode special.
And she's in great shape. She just finished me quickly. There wouldn't be much of a show. I got a bad knee. It's
right.
No good at all.
Well, thank you so much. You are both winners for Think Fast to Make the Grade. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's a winner.
We do have one final competition thing to do. This one we can't have a tie. This one is actually going to be up to the listeners.
Okay.
We are now going to have each of you pretty much running for Hillside and Hawthorne as class president.
Wow.
Because you are both going to represent each show to determine which show is best.
Oh no.
Well, I already ran for president at Hillside, so I have experience.
Oh my God.
That you do.
Oh my God.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to give each of you a category, and then you are going to try to convince the listeners why your show is best in this category. So the first category is which show had the best characters?
I think Welcome Freshmen had better characters in that our characters weren't restricted to as heavier content. And, I think we were also a little bit more fashionable.
You did have the 90s grunge movement.
We did
going for you.
I think there's something to be said for some of those 90s fashions that we were on the cutting edge of at the time, so that's
You had a bigger budget.
Did we have better characters? That's hard to say. I think we had cooler characters. I don't know if necessarily they were better.
All right, Robyn, why should listeners go with 15 for better characters?
Can I cross the floor? Why did 15? Because 15 represented every type of kid that is in high school. And so every person out there could identify with somebody that was in 15. And that's why I feel we have stronger characters.
Okay. Now our second category is story arc or skits. Obviously, Welcome Freshmen did a bit of both, but which one had the most memorable stories or skits?
What made our show most memorable, especially during those first 2 seasons, when if we're going to talk about skits, is that although we had themes that we played against, the skits and the little break sketches sort of allowed us to play with a little bit more creativity within the confines of the characters that we had. You're still pretty much the same character, but now you're the same character in 1500s Germany as Walter invents the sandwich. You know what I mean? And you get like a or maybe it's not even a historical piece. Now I'm the president of really good industries, or I'm trying to sell Kevin's School of Teacher Translation or something. A little bit of funness there that we could play with in skits that you don't get to do with in storylines.
All right, Robyn, what about 15 had the better stories?
Yeah, we didn't really have any skits except for, I guess Brooke being such a caricature of herself, that was skit in a way. It's really hard.
I know.
Because I think Welcome Freshmen was a really fun show. Ours was extremely dramatic and very soap opera like. So it depends what your jam was. But if you liked to get deep in and get all involved and wrapped up in people's lives, I mean, definitely our show was the show to get all wrapped up in. But like you said, Chris's show kept a faster pace because, you know, if Matt said every single episode, I'm not an alcoholic. I swear that needs to be a quote that's out there on the internet.
That should be a drinking game. Drink every time Matt says I'm not an
alcoholic.
Well, trust me, it is a drinking game.
It is a drinking game, I'm sure.
There is 15 drinking games out there. So, I would just say I don't have an argument. I think Chris won this.
Well,
I'm Brooke. Vote for me.
I will say, as an unbiased opinion moderator between the two, as far as 15, more as an observation, Welcome Freshmen was fun skits and they were all tied to a theme. 15 had some pretty, which Robyn had mentioned earlier, some pretty deep issues. I know she did say that at one point that it was the deepest it got at one point when we were talking about my favorite episode, but they did deal with divorce and alcoholism and peer pressure, and they went with more thematic stuff, whereas Welcome Freshmen didn't. Like you said, it's very much up to you, listeners, of which style you like more, which story arc resonated more with you, the more thematic stuff or the more lighthearted fun stuff. It's completely up to you.
Yeah,
and Alex Nance is now my vice president. We're running together.
That sweetens the deal.
You'll have to beat me and Brent.
The way I see it, it's like 15 is a multi-course meal, and then Welcome Freshmen is like a really tasty appetizer or dessert.
Yeah,
they have a very
like
similar nature.
We're like that. You know what I mean? Like, you can watch our show, you can marathon our show, and never fill up.
You can have a few episodes of ours and feel really, really sick.
Real Logie.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
All right, our third category, which should be pretty quick. Which one had the best theme song?
That's a tough one.
I would say 15 has the way better theme song because it really encapsulates the end of the 80s with all that electronic synthesizer type music crossing over, because you are going from teenage years to adult years where you might have heard something about adult films out there that kind of gave you this slow move towards knowing what that music was. And that's why I would say yay for 15 for opening up the eyes of many, teenage kids in the early 90s.
Great response. All right, Chris, Welcome Freshmen.
Well, I think we're getting an explicit rating for this episode.
Absolutely.
That was as PC as I could be.
Hey, props for doing so.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
I think, Welcome Freshmen, it's funny, man, but Welcome Freshmen theme song is actually one of my favorite parts of it. It's just kind of grungy pop, definitely kind of sweet, but there's this kind of rough guitar band drum section that, and I just kind of dug that because it's fun and just raw a little bit. I'm not quite sure what kind of adult film I would place it in, but I'm sure there's.
I don't even know if I could sing the theme song. Can you sing or hum the theme song?
It's a real headbanger.
It is.
That's cool.
Yes, both shows came out in the 90s, and both shows did not get a whole lot of love after they went off the air. There was a lot of stuff that resonated with audiences. How would the shows resonate with audiences today? Which show is the most relevant?
Kids have problems. I mean, we all have problems, but I mean, kids go through stuff. Their stuff's even heavier today. Like, I think the stuff that we had in our show back then is as big as it was then. Yes, kids still deal with it today, and then add a million things onto that. Our show then was on today. It would kind of be a walk through the park compared to the stuff that they're dealing with now.
Yeah.
I don't envy them. And if it doesn't kill them, it'll make them stronger. So I think all of the stuff, the things that teenagers go through would still resonate today in the sense that they're always going through things. Yeah.
All right, Chris, how does Welcome Freshmen resonate with audiences today?
It doesn't. I'm kidding.
You're not helping your case.
I think no, I'm kidding. I think where that show really shined was just in providing a space for awkward kids in transitional stages to sort of have their own place to be awkward and not be burned for it. Like, I guess every teen sort of sitcom show like ours had that kind of awkward kid character who kind of exemplified that. But I think Welcome Freshmen made it a point to sort of address that awkward transitional stage of being a freshman and what all that encompasses. You know, there's new freshmen every year. There's always going to be a generation of kids that have to go from 8th grade children to high school quasi adults. And there's always that freakishly hellish period in between that we all have to go through. And like Robyn says, I can't imagine what it must be like going through that now. I mean, that seems like hell of a brand new flavor.
Slimesters, take those arguments into account and email us at splatattack2021@gmail.com and let us know which show you think by those arguments is the better show.
Well, there's not really much more to say. I think it's time to pack our bags and head home from school. Robyn, Chris, thank you so much for joining us tonight to relive all these fond memories of Welcome Freshmen in 15. No matter what show 90s Nickelodeon fans are into, it's just been a pure delight to go down memory lane with you guys and hopefully provide some insight to our listeners why these shows are so special to people back then who watched it and also the people who remember it even today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. As always, you guys. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Brett, Alex. Always a pleasure. You know, hit me up. We love to talk. I love to talk to you guys. Robyn, it's so good to see you again.
Yes, you too. We got to do this outside of interviews, man.
I know. We can't just leave it to Brett and Alex to fix a social schedule for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If only we were like geographically closer, we can like hang out on Fridays after work and get a drink.
Wouldn't that be nice? So Wouldn't that when the world opens up again? Maybe we'll try
that. Oh my God!
All right, Slimesters, we're gonna head home from Hillside and Hawthorne High, but I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you are listening into our podcast, you can tune in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and Listen Notes, among many others. And we also have a Facebook group. Feel free to communicate with us there. We're also active on Instagram at Splat Attack Podcast. Join the conversation, relive some 90s memories with us. We're all about connecting with our listeners. You know, email us at splatattack2021@gmail.com if you're still into email. Send us your questions, your thoughts on the episodes, any future topics you would like us to cover. All right, guys, we're going to head out today. See you later, Slimesters and Gatgoids.
Brooke for president.
Reprise the theme song and roll the credits.
Hard to believe, folks, but it's time to say goodbye.
Nighty-night.
Hey, check us out next time for more adventure and another great legend of the Hidden Temple.
What'll we do till then?
Chill for a couple. We'll be back.
You're on, Nick.
And it was time for the superhero to move on. I declare this meeting of the Midnight Society closed.
Bye-bye.
That is all. Thank you. Freshman. What a curse.